Maya Chen had killed her first alien at 14. By 16, she'd led a squad of hardened Marines through the burning ruins of New Singapore. At 17, she'd earned 3 commendations for valor and a cybernetic left arm after a Vorthak plasma cannon had vaporized the original. Now, at 18, she stood outside Jefferson High School, staring at teenagers who giggled over social media posts and worried about prom dates. The contrast felt like stepping from a battlefield into a children's playground. Her new guardian, Dr. Sarah Morrison, touched her shoulder gently. "Remember what we discussed. You're just a transfer student from overseas. Your parents were diplomats who died in an accident. Keep it simple." Maya nodded, adjusting the skin-colored synthetic covering on her cybernetic arm. The prosthetic was military-grade, capable of crushing steel, but she'd had to dial down its sensitivity to avoid accidentally breaking door handles. Everything here seemed so fragile. The school building looked pristine compared to the bombed-out structures she'd grown accustomed to. Clean windows, intact walls, students who weren't checking corners for snipers. It should have been comforting. Instead, it felt surreal. "Maya?" Dr. Morrison's voice carried concern. "Are you ready?" "Yes, ma'am." The formal response came automatically. Maya caught herself and tried again. "Yeah, I'm ready." As they walked through the main entrance, Maya's enhanced hearing picked up fragments of conversation that would have been impossible for normal human ears to detect. Gossip about weekend parties, complaints about homework, excitement over some celebrity's latest scandal. None of it registered as important. Her mind automatically cataloged exit routes, potential cover positions, and the approximate number of civilians to evacuate in case of attack. The principal, Mr. Henderson, greeted them with a warm smile that Maya recognized as the kind adults used when they thought they were dealing with a traumatized refugee, which she supposed wasn't entirely wrong. "Welcome to Jefferson High, Maya. I know the transition from overseas can be challenging, but I'm confident you'll fit right in." If only he knew. Maya had been overseas, all right. About 4-star systems over, fighting humanity's first interstellar war against an enemy that viewed humans as barely evolved insects, worthy only of extermination. The guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, took over the tour. She spoke in that careful, gentle tone that adults used around broken children. Maya let the words wash over her while her augmented vision automatically analyzed the building's layout, noting structural weaknesses and defensive advantages out of habit. "This is our main hallway. Your locker is number 247 just down here. And this," Mrs. Patterson gestured proudly, "is our state-of-the-art computer lab." Maya glanced at the rows of basic terminals and suppressed a smile. She'd operated quantum tactical computers while coordinating orbital bombardments. These machines looked like toys. Her first class was AP Physics with Mr. Rodriguez, an enthusiastic teacher who seemed genuinely passionate about his subject. Maya took a seat in the back, another ingrained habit. Always keep your back to a wall and maintain sight lines to all exits. "Today we're discussing Newton's laws of motion," Mr. Rodriguez announced. "Can anyone tell me what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object?" Several hands shot up. Maya kept hers down, even though she could explain the real-world applications she'd witnessed when Vorthak kinetic weapons struck human barrier shields. The math was simple when you'd seen it happen. A girl with perfectly styled blonde hair named Jessica raised her hand. "It's like a paradox or whatever. Because if the force is truly unstoppable, then nothing can be immovable, right?" "Excellent thinking, Jessica," Mr. Rodriguez beamed. "Now let's consider this in terms of momentum conservation." Maya found herself tuning out. She'd learned these concepts not from textbooks, but from watching railgun projectiles punch through alien armor. Theory was fine, but she preferred practical application. At lunch, Maya sat alone at a corner table, methodically eating the cafeteria food while observing the social dynamics around her. It was like watching an alien species, which, considering her recent experiences, was saying something. A group of girls at a nearby table were discussing some drama involving a boy named Tyler and two different prom invitations. Their voices carried genuine distress over what Maya couldn't help but see as trivial problems. She'd watched friends die in her arms, had made split-second decisions that determined whether civilians lived or died. The idea of being upset over a dance invitation seemed incomprehensible. "You're the new girl, right?" Maya looked up to find a boy with sandy hair and kind eyes standing beside her table. He wore a Letterman jacket that marked him as one of the popular athletes. "Maya Chen," she replied simply. "I'm Marcus. Marcus Webb. Mind if I sit? You looked kinda lonely over here." Maya gestured to the empty chair, curious about this social interaction. In the military, friendships were forged through shared hardship and mutual dependence. Here, she wasn't sure how civilian relationships worked. Marcus sat down and unwrapped his sandwich. "So, where'd you transfer from? Mrs. Patterson mentioned you're from overseas." "Singapore," Maya said, sticking to the cover story. It was technically true. She had been stationed at the Singapore Defense Complex before the evacuation. "Cool. That must be a huge change coming here. I mean, Jefferson isn't exactly the most exciting place in the world." If only he knew how much she craved boredom. Excitement, in her recent experience, usually involved explosions and people trying to kill her. "It's different," Maya agreed. "Quieter." Marcus laughed. "That's one way to put it. Have you thought about joining any clubs or sports? Might be a good way to meet people. I'm on the basketball team and my girlfriend Emma runs the student newspaper." Maya considered this. In the Marines, everyone had specialized roles that contributed to unit effectiveness. Perhaps civilian social structures operated similarly. "What kind of clubs are there?" "Oh, tons. Drama club, debate team, robotics club, environmental group. There's also JROTC if you're into the military stuff, though it's pretty basic compared to the real thing, I imagine." Maya nearly laughed at that understatement. "I might check out robotics." The rest of lunch passed with Marcus explaining the various social hierarchies and unwritten rules of high school life. Maya filed the information away, treating it like intelligence on enemy force structures. Knowledge was survival, even in this strange, peaceful environment. Her afternoon classes blurred together. Chemistry, where she had to pretend she didn't know the molecular composition of Vorthak nerve agents. English literature, where they discussed themes of heroism in ways that seemed almost quaint. And finally, history, where Mr. Brennan taught about past wars with an academic detachment that made Maya want to scream. World War II represented a turning point in human warfare, Mr. Brennan lectured. The introduction of new technologies fundamentally changed how conflicts were fought. Maya bit back the urge to mention that the Vorthak War had made World War II look like a playground scuffle. Plasma weapons, orbital bombardments, cybernetic soldiers, AI-assisted tactical systems, humanity had been forced to evolve its warfare capabilities by centuries in just a few years. After school, Maya found herself in the parking lot, watching students climb into cars driven by parents or older siblings. Normal teenagers with normal problems, heading home to normal families. She waited for Dr. Morrison, who was running late due to some emergency at the research facility where she worked. "Hey, Maya." She turned to see Marcus jogging over, a basketball bag slung over his shoulder. "How was your first day? Not too overwhelming?" "I hope." "It was fine," Maya replied automatically. Marcus studied her face with surprising perceptiveness. "You seem pretty mature for someone our age. Like, really mature. Did something happen overseas? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but sometimes talking helps." Maya felt a moment of genuine surprise. In her experience, civilians were usually oblivious to anything beyond their immediate concerns. This boy had noticed something that trained intelligence officers might miss. "Just grew up fast, I guess," she said finally. "Yeah, I get that. My dad's military, Army Rangers. He came back from his deployment different. Didn't talk much about what happened over there, but you could see it in his eyes sometimes. Same look you've got." Before Maya could respond, Dr. Morrison's car pulled up. "That's my ride," she said, shouldering her backpack. "See you tomorrow," Marcus called after her. "And Maya, if you ever want to talk about whatever you've been through, I'm a good listener. No judgment." As they drove home, Dr. Morrison asked about her day. Maya provided a brief, factual report that satisfied the older woman's concerns, but her mind kept returning to Marcus's words. He'd seen something in her that reminded him of his father, a combat veteran. The recognition was both comforting and concerning. That evening, Maya sat in her new bedroom, staring out the window at a neighborhood where the biggest threat was probably teenagers driving too fast. She'd requisitioned some basic equipment from her old unit, nothing that would raise questions, just personal items that helped her feel prepared. A tactical knife hidden in her desk drawer, a comm device disguised as a smartphone, emergency medical supplies concealed in her closet. Dr. Morrison knocked on her door and entered with a cup of tea. "How are you really doing, Maya? I know today couldn't have been easy." Maya accepted the tea, grateful for the warm ritual. Dr. Morrison was a xenobiologist who'd worked with the military during the war, studying captured Vorthak technology. She was one of the few civilians who knew Maya's real history. "It's strange," Maya admitted. "Everyone here seems so innocent. They have no idea what's happening in the galaxy, what humanity just went through." "That's intentional," Dr. Morrison said gently. "The government decided that public knowledge of the war would cause mass panic. People are being told that the colony ships that returned were part of a failed terraforming project. Only essential personnel know the truth." Maya nodded. She understood the reasoning, but it created a bizarre disconnect. These teenagers lived in a world where humanity's greatest concern was still earthbound conflicts and environmental issues. They had no idea that their species had just fought for its very survival against an enemy that viewed them as vermin. "Do you think it's right?" Maya asked. "Keeping them in the dark?" Dr. Morrison was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. Part of me thinks they deserve to know that heroes like you fought to protect everything they care about. But another part thinks maybe they're lucky to live in ignorance, at least for now." After Dr. Morrison left, Maya opened her secure tablet and accessed encrypted files from her military service. Mission reports, casualty lists, tactical analyses, the real record of humanity's first interstellar war. She read through familiar names of friends who hadn't made it home, soldiers who'd given everything to ensure that places like Jefferson High could continue existing in blissful normalcy. The weight of that sacrifice felt heavier here, surrounded by teenagers who giggled over trivial drama while remaining completely unaware of the darkness that lurked beyond their small world. Maya had killed to protect their right to worry about prom dates and homework assignments. Now she had to figure out how to live among them without losing herself in the process. She closed the tablet and prepared for bed, setting multiple silent alarms out of habit. Tomorrow would bring more classes, more pretending to be a normal teenager, more navigating a social landscape that felt more foreign than any alien world she'd fought on. But maybe Marcus was right. Maybe talking to someone who understood loss and sacrifice would help her find a way to bridge the gap between the soldier she'd been and the civilian she was supposed to become. For now, though, she would take it one day at a time, carrying her secrets like weapons she hoped never to use again. 3 weeks into her civilian life, Maya had established a routine that felt almost normal. Almost. She woke at 500 hours out of habit, completed a modified PT regimen in her room to avoid questions about her enhanced physical capabilities, and arrived at school early enough to observe the daily patterns of her new environment. The robotics club had proven more interesting than expected. While the projects were elementary compared to military AI systems, Maya found herself genuinely engaged with the creative problem-solving aspects. She'd even made a few tentative friendships with the other members, though she had to be careful not to display knowledge that would raise questions about her background. "Maya, could you help me with this servo calibration?" asked David Kim, the club's president. He was a senior with thick glasses and an intuitive understanding of mechanical systems that reminded Maya of her old unit's tech specialist. Maya examined the robotic arm they were building for an upcoming competition. The calibration was off by several degrees, causing jerky movements that would cost them points for precision. In her head, she could see exactly what adjustments were needed. Her cybernetic arm used similar servo systems, just several generations more advanced. "Try adjusting the feedback loop sensitivity," she suggested, careful to phrase it as a question rather than a command. "Maybe if we decrease the gain coefficient by about 15%? David made the adjustment and tested the movement. The arm moved smoothly through its programmed sequence. "Perfect! How did you know that would work?" Maya shrugged. "Lucky guess. I read a lot about robotics back in Singapore." It wasn't entirely a lie. She had read extensively about robotic systems. Military technical manuals that detailed cybernetic prosthetics and automated weapon platforms. But David didn't need to know that. The club's teacher supervisor, Ms. Chen, observed their work with approval. "Excellent troubleshooting, Maya. Have you considered engineering as a career path?" Maya had never really thought about a career beyond military service. The war had started when she was 14, and survival had been the only career that mattered. Now, surrounded by teenagers planning for college and future careers, she realized she had no idea what came next. "I'm still figuring that out," Maya replied honestly. At lunch, she'd begun sitting with Marcus and his girlfriend Emma, along with a rotating group of their friends. Today, the conversation centered on senior year stress, college applications, SAT scores, and the eternal question of what to do with their lives. "I'm thinking pre-med," Emma said, pushing her salad around on her plate. "My mom's been pushing it since I was like 10, but honestly, I just want to write. Maybe journalism, travel the world, tell important stories." "You'd be good at that," Marcus said supportively. "You've got that instinct for getting to the truth of things." Maya nearly choked on her sandwich. If Emma only knew what truths were being hidden from her and everyone else in this school. The biggest story of human history was being covered up, and the teenagers around her had no idea they were living in the aftermath of an interstellar war. "What about you, Maya?" Emma asked. "Any idea what you want to study?" "Defense studies, maybe," Maya said carefully. "International relations. Something involving security." "That sounds intense," said Jessica, the blonde girl from physics class who'd recently joined their lunch group. "Like working for the government and stuff?" "Something like that." Marcus gave Maya a thoughtful look. She'd noticed him doing that more often lately, as if he was trying to solve a puzzle. His father's military background made him more perceptive than most of their classmates. The conversation shifted to weekend plans, but Maya found herself distracted by a commotion at a nearby table. A freshman was being hassled by 3 upperclassmen, typical bullying behavior that the supervising teachers hadn't yet noticed. Maya watched the dynamics unfold with professional interest. The aggressors were establishing dominance through verbal intimidation and physical posturing. The victim, a small Asian boy with thick glasses, displayed classic submission behaviors: hunched shoulders, averted eye contact, defensive body language. In a combat situation, Maya would have intervened immediately to protect the vulnerable. But this was civilian territory with different rules and social hierarchies. She was supposed to be a normal teenager, not a trained soldier. Still, When one of the bullies grabbed the boy's lunch tray and dumped it on the floor, Maya found herself standing before she'd consciously decided to move. "Hey," she said, walking over to the group. Her voice carried an edge of command that made all 4 boys look up. "Pick that up." The lead bully, a junior named Brett, who played on the football team, laughed. "Or what, transfer girl, you gonna make me?" Maya studied him for a moment. Brett was bigger than her, probably outweighed her by 60 pounds. He had the cocky confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences for his actions. In the Marines, she'd known soldiers like him, the ones who learned respect only when they met someone harder than themselves. "Yeah," Maya said simply. "I am." The cafeteria had gone quiet around them. Maya was dimly aware that this confrontation was now a public spectacle, but her focus had narrowed to the immediate tactical situation. 3 potential hostiles, 1 civilian to protect, multiple exit routes, improvised weapons available if needed. Brett stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate her. "You know what? I think you need to learn some manners about how things work around here." He reached out to shove Maya's shoulder. That was his mistake. Maya's cybernetic arm moved with inhuman speed and precision. She caught Brett's wrist in a grip that stopped his momentum cold, then applied just enough pressure to make him gasp without actually breaking bones. Her enhanced strength made restraining him trivial, though she was careful not to reveal the full extent of her capabilities. "Here's how things work," Maya said quietly, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who'd commanded soldiers in life-or-death situations. "You're going to pick up that food. You're going to apologize to—" She glanced at the freshman. "What's your name?" Tommy," the boy stammered. "You're going to apologize to Tommy, and then you're going to leave him alone. Permanently." Brett's face had gone pale. Maya could see in his eyes the moment he realized he'd encountered something beyond his understanding. Someone who radiated a quiet, dangerous competence that had nothing to do with high school social hierarchies. "Let go of me," he said, but the demand came out more like a plea. Maya released his wrist and stepped back. Brett flexed his hand, staring at her with a mixture of confusion and wariness. For a moment, the cafeteria held its breath. Then Brett knelt and began collecting the scattered food, his 2 friends helping in confused silence. They mumbled apologies to Tommy and retreated to another table, shooting nervous glances back at Maya. "Thanks," Tommy said quietly, as Maya helped him get a replacement lunch. "I can't believe you did that." Maya shrugged. "Everyone deserves to eat their lunch in peace." As she returned to her table, Maya became aware of the dozens of eyes tracking her movement. The incident had created ripples that would spread throughout the school's social ecosystem. She'd tried to keep a low profile, but protecting Tommy had blown her cover as just another transfer student. "Holy shit," Emma whispered as Maya sat down. "I've never seen Brett back down from anyone before." "Where did you learn to do that?" Marcus asked, his voice carefully neutral. Maya met his eyes and saw recognition there. He'd identified her as someone with combat training, though he couldn't possibly guess the extent of it. "Self-defense classes," Maya said. "Singapore can be dangerous for young women." It wasn't entirely a lie. Singapore had been dangerous, just not from common criminals. She'd learned to fight in the ruins of that city while humanity's colonial fleet burned in orbit overhead. The rest of lunch passed in subdued conversation, with various students shooting glances in Maya's direction. She'd become a person of interest, which complicated her mission to blend in with the civilian population. After school, Marcus caught up with her at her locker. "Can we talk? Somewhere private?" Maya considered declining, but Marcus's military family background made him potentially useful for maintaining her cover. If anyone could help her navigate civilian social dynamics, it might be someone who understood the gap between military and civilian cultures. They walked to a quiet corner of the library, where Marcus pulled out a chair and gestured for Maya to sit. His expression was serious, more mature than she'd seen from any of her classmates. "My dad came home from Afghanistan 3 years ago," Marcus said without preamble. "He had the same look in his eyes that you do, the same way of moving, like you're always ready for something bad to happen." Maya kept her expression neutral. "I don't know what you mean. The way you handled Brett wasn't self-defense class stuff. That was professional-level training. And when you grabbed his wrist, I saw how you positioned yourself. Perfect balance, ready to move in any direction." Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "My dad taught me to recognize soldiers, Maya, even when they're trying to pretend they're not." Maya felt a moment of genuine alarm. If a teenager could identify her military background, her cover might be more fragile than she'd thought. "Even if that were true," Maya said carefully, "why would it matter to you?" "Because you're carrying something heavy, and you're trying to carry it alone. My dad did the same thing when he got back. Nearly destroyed him before he finally started talking to other veterans." Marcus's sincerity was unexpected. Maya had been prepared for suspicion, interrogation, or even fear. She hadn't expected genuine concern from someone barely older than herself. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Maya asked. "Nothing dramatic. Just that if you ever want to talk to someone who might understand, I'm here. And my dad would be too, if you ever wanted to meet him." The offer hung in the air between them. Maya had been operating under the assumption that she needed to maintain complete operational security, but Marcus was presenting an alternative. The possibility of finding some middle ground between total isolation and complete exposure. "I'll think about it," Maya said finally. As they left the library, Maya's secure communicator vibrated with an encrypted message. She waited until she was alone to check it, expecting routine administrative updates from her handler. Instead, she found an urgent priority alert that made her blood run cold. Vorthak energy signatures had been detected in Earth's outer system. Deep space monitoring stations had picked up quantum disruption patterns consistent with enemy stealth technology. The war everyone thought was over might be about to come home. Maya stared at the message, her mind automatically shifting into tactical analysis mode. If the Vorthak had found Earth, the peaceful ignorance of places like Jefferson High was about to end. The teenagers worrying about prom dates and college applications had no idea they might soon be fighting for their lives. Dr. Morrison was waiting in the car, her face grim. She'd obviously received the same alert. "How long?" Maya asked as she got in. "Unknown. Could be days, could be weeks. We're mobilizing quietly, trying not to cause panic." Maya looked back at the school, where Marcus was getting into his car and Emma was laughing with her friends about something trivial and wonderful. In a few days or weeks, their world might be burning. "What are my orders?" Maya asked. "For now, maintain your cover, but be ready. If they come, we might need every experienced soldier we can get." As they drove home through suburban streets lined with houses full of families who had no idea what was coming, Maya felt the weight of her dual existence more acutely than ever. She was a guardian standing between the darkness and the light, protecting people who didn't even know they needed protection. Tomorrow she would go to school and pretend to care about geometry homework and chemistry labs. She would eat lunch with teenagers who thought their biggest problems involved social media drama and college applications. She would continue the charade of being a normal girl in a normal world. But underneath it all, she would be a soldier preparing for war. Again. The attack came on a Tuesday morning during third-period physics. Maya was half listening to Mr. Rodriguez explain wave-particle duality when every electronic device in the building simultaneously emitted a high-pitched whine and went dark. The lights flickered once and died, leaving the classroom in the strange twilight of overcast autumn skies filtering through windows. Students began chattering nervously, assuming it was a power outage. Maya knew better. She'd experienced this exact phenomenon before, electromagnetic pulse effects from Vorthak quantum disruptors. The enemy had found Earth. "Everyone remain calm," Mr. Rodriguez announced, though Maya could hear the uncertainty in his voice. "I'm sure it's just a temporary power grid issue." Maya's enhanced hearing picked up the distant rumble of aircraft engines, too high-pitched to be human technology. The Vorthak were conducting atmospheric reconnaissance, probably preparing for ground assault. She estimated maybe 15 minutes before the first wave of attack craft reached population centers. Her cybernetic arm tingled as its emergency protocols activated. Built-in communication systems came online, connecting her to the military command network that was undoubtedly mobilizing across the globe. A tactical overlay appeared in her augmented vision, displaying threat assessments and defensive positions. The school had 1,200 students and staff. The nearest military installation was 40 miles away. Local law enforcement had no weapons capable of stopping Vorthak infantry, let alone their war machines. Maya was effectively the only trained combatant in a 20-mile radius. She stood up, her mind shifting into combat mode. "Maya?" Mr. Rodriguez looked at her with concern. "Please take your seat until we figure out what's happening." Maya ignored him and walked to the window, studying the horizon. 3 dark shapes were descending through the cloud cover, Vorthak scout craft, their biomechanical hulls gleaming with an oil-slick iridescence that human eyes found unsettling. They moved with the predatory grace of hunting hawks, scanning for targets. Behind her, the classroom had erupted in nervous chatter. Some students were trying to use their phones, growing increasingly agitated when the devices remained dead. Others were making jokes about alien invasions, not realizing how accurate their humor was. Maya activated her comm implant with a subvocal command. "Command, this is Operative Chen. I have visual confirmation of Vorthak scout craft over civilian population zone, requesting immediate extraction for non-combatants." The response crackled with static interference. "Chen, all military assets are engaged. You are authorized to take whatever action necessary to protect civilian populations. Reinforcements unavailable for approximately 6 hours." 6 hours. Maya calculated rapidly. By then, the Vorthak would have eliminated any organized resistance and begun their standard protocol of civilian processing. She'd seen the aftermath on other worlds. It wasn't something she could allow to happen here. "Mr. Rodriguez," Maya said, turning from the window. Her voice carried the unmistakable authority of command. "I need you to initiate emergency lockdown procedures. All students and faculty should be moved to the basement immediately." "I'm sorry, Maya, but you can't just—" The discussion was interrupted by an explosion somewhere in the distance, followed by the wail of emergency sirens. Through the window, Maya could see smoke rising from the direction of downtown. The attack had begun. "Everyone listen to me," Maya announced, her voice cutting through the rising panic. "This is not a drill. We are under attack by hostile forces. I am trained military personnel, and I am taking command of this situation." Several students laughed nervously, thinking she was making some kind of joke. Mr. Rodriguez started to object, but Maya was already moving toward the classroom door. "Jessica, David, Marcus, I need you to help organize evacuation to the basement. Move now." The authority in her voice was absolute, carrying the weight of someone who had commanded soldiers in combat. Even the students who wanted to question her orders found themselves obeying instinctively. Maya reached into her backpack and withdrew what appeared to be a standard tablet computer. Her fingers moved across its surface in a complex pattern, inputting security codes that activated hidden functions. The device shifted and reconfigured itself, extending into a military-grade tactical display. "Holy shit," someone whispered. "She's actually military." Maya ignored the comment, focusing on the tactical readout. Enemy forces were converging on population centers across the region. The school's location made it a likely target for Vorthak infantry. They preferred to eliminate large concentrations of humans early in their assault operations. Maya. Marcus appeared beside her, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. What do you need me to do? She looked at him with genuine respect. While other students were panicking or denying the reality of the situation, Marcus had immediately shifted into crisis response mode. His military family background was showing. Get everyone to the basement, barricade the entrances. Do not let anyone leave the building under any circumstances until I give the all clear. What about you? Maya was already moving toward the door. I'm going to buy you time. She slipped out of the classroom and moved quickly through the hallways, her enhanced senses mapping the building's layout and identifying potential defensive positions. Her cybernetic arm reconfigured itself, synthetic skin retracting to reveal the military-grade hardware beneath. Weapon ports opened along the forearm, and targeting systems activated in her visual display. Maya had exactly 3 minutes to prepare before the first Vorthak infantry units reached the school. She chose the main entrance as her primary defensive position, a natural choke point that would force enemy units to advance through a narrow corridor. Her tactical training kicked in as she rapidly arranged desks and chairs into improvised cover positions, calculating angles of fire and fallback routes. The first Vorthak warrior crashed through the main doors exactly on schedule. Maya had fought these creatures before, but seeing one in the pristine hallways of Jefferson High created a jarring cognitive dissonance. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, its chitinous exoskeleton gleaming with biomechanical enhancements. Multiple limbs ended in weapon appendages that could fire both energy beams and projectile rounds. Its head was an elongated nightmare of compound eyes and mandibles designed for tearing flesh. To the creature, Maya probably looked like any other human, small, soft, easily eliminated. It had no way of knowing it was facing a veteran of humanity's most brutal interstellar conflict. Maya's cybernetic arm extended and locked into firing position, built-in plasma cannons charged with a high-pitched whine, and targeting lasers painted the Vorthak warrior's center mass. "Welcome to Earth," Maya said quietly, and opened fire. The plasma bolt took the creature center mass, burning through its exoskeleton and dropping it before it could raise its weapons. The smell of charred alien flesh filled the hallway, a scent Maya remembered all too well from battles on distant worlds. 2 more warriors charged through the entrance. Maya rolled behind her improvised barricade as return fire scorched the air where she'd been standing. Her enhanced reflexes and cybernetic systems gave her an overwhelming advantage in close-quarters combat, but she had to be careful not to let them flank her position. She popped up and fired twice in quick succession, eliminating both targets with precision shots that would have been impossible for unenhanced humans. The hallway fell silent except for the crackling of burning alien corpses. Maya's comm system crackled with updates from the battlefield. Vorthak forces were advancing on multiple fronts, but they were meeting unexpectedly fierce resistance from human military units that had been quietly preparing for this exact scenario. Humanity had learned from their first encounter with the enemy. A new sound reached her enhanced hearing, the heavy footsteps of something much larger approaching the school. Through her tactical display, Maya identified the signature as a Vorthak heavy assault unit, essentially a walking tank operated by a warrior-class alien. Her current position wouldn't hold against that level of firepower. Maya needed to relocate and engage the unit before it reached the building. She moved quickly through the school's rear exit, circling around to approach the assault unit from its blind spot. The machine stood 12 feet tall, its multiple weapon systems scanning for targets, while the pilot creature inside directed its movements through bio-neural interfaces. Maya's cybernetic arm reconfigured again, this time extending a high-energy lance designed for anti-armor operations. She had one shot at this, miss, and the creature would turn the school into rubble with everyone still inside. She activated her targeting system and lined up the shot carefully. The lance required a direct hit on the unit's power core, located behind layers of biomechanical armor. It was a shot she'd made before, but never with so many civilian lives depending on the outcome. Maya squeezed the trigger. The energy lance punched through the assault unit's armor like it was paper, finding the power core and triggering a catastrophic overload. The machine collapsed in a shower of sparks and alien biology, its death scream echoing across the school grounds. Silence fell over the area. Maya's tactical display showed no additional enemy contacts in the immediate vicinity. For now, the school was secure. She made her way back inside, where she found the evacuation had been completed successfully. Marcus was waiting by the basement entrance, his expression mixing relief and awe. "Are they gone?" he asked. "For now, but this is just the first wave. There will be more." Maya checked her comm system for updates. The global battle was still raging, but human forces were holding their own better than expected. The element of surprise was gone. This time, humanity was ready for the Vorthak. "Maya," Emma's voice came from behind her. "We need to talk." Maya turned to find Emma standing with her camera, having apparently documented part of the battle. The journalism student's expression was a mixture of terror and determination. "I got it all on video," Emma said. "The aliens, the fighting, you saving everyone. This is the story of the century, isn't it? The one they've been hiding from us." Maya felt a moment of panic. If footage of the attack became public, it would shatter the carefully maintained secret about humanity's interstellar conflict. "Emma, you can't..." "Can't what? Can't tell people the truth about what's happening? About heroes like you who've been protecting us?" Emma stepped closer, her voice passionate. "People deserve to know. They deserve to know that there are monsters out there, and that there are people like you standing between them and the dark." Maya looked around the basement at the faces of students and teachers who had just experienced the most terrifying day of their lives. They were looking at her with a mixture of fear, gratitude, and dawning understanding. "She's right," Marcus said quietly. "People need to know. Maybe if they knew the truth, they'd appreciate what you've sacrificed for them." Maya's comm system chimed with another priority message. Command was reporting successful repulsion of the Vorthak assault across all fronts. The enemy had withdrawn to regroup, but they would return. Next time, humanity needed to be even more prepared. And perhaps that preparation required more than just military readiness. Perhaps it required a population that understood what was at stake. Maya made her decision. "Emma," she said, "if you're going to tell this story, you need to tell all of it. About the war, about the soldiers who died protecting Earth, about why some of us came home and tried to live normal lives." Emma nodded eagerly. "I want to tell it right. All of it." Maya looked around at the faces surrounding her, teenagers who had just discovered that the universe was darker and more dangerous than they'd ever imagined, but also that there were people willing to fight that darkness. "Then let's start with this," Maya said. "My name is Staff Sergeant Maya Chen, 3rd Colonial Marine Regiment. I'm 18 years old, and I've spent the last 4 years fighting humanity's first interstellar war. Today, I came back from battle one more time. But I'm not the only one." As Maya began to tell her story, the real story of humanity's hidden war among the stars, she realized that her mission had changed. She was no longer just a soldier trying to adapt to civilian life. She was a bridge between two worlds, helping her classmates understand the broader universe they were part of. The war wasn't over, but for the first time since returning to Earth, Maya felt like she might have found a way to fight it that didn't require her to hide who she was. Outside, the skies were clear again. But everyone in that basement knew that the stars held both wonders and terrors beyond their previous imagination. Maya Chen had come back from battle to find a high school nightmare. Instead, she discovered that sometimes the nightmare was just the beginning of people learning how to be heroes. The girl who had saved humanity among distant stars had finally found her way home, not by hiding from her past, but by helping others understand the future they all faced together.